Okay, guys, I want to go over 6 ways that you can fail the GRE, brought to you by the cast of Friends. Little known fact, all these 6 wonderful people before they got into acting applied to grad school, but sadly, they failed the GRE for various reasons. So, let's start with Phoebe. What happened to her? Way number 1, starting too late. Unfortunately, if you only give yourself a month or so to prepare for the GRE, maybe even 2 months for a lot of people, you're not going to really allow enough time to learn a lot of vocab or to really master a lot of math concepts. Those things take time. Try to give yourself at least a few months to be on the safe side, unless you know you're already scoring really high from an official ETS practice test. Way number 2, from Monica. She used third-party practice questions. Super important, guys, that you use practice questions written by ETS, which is the company that actually creates the GRE. If you use like Kaplan or the Princeton review questions or Magoosh questions or Manhattan prep questions, you really aren't practicing with the style of the actual test. And those third-party companies are really only useful for one thing in terms of questions, getting repetition with math concepts. But if you want to get a real sense of the test and have the most accurate representation, make sure you don't use those companies, use ETS instead. Joey avoided reading. He just didn't like reading. Well, hey, maybe some of you don't like reading too, but guess what? Reading builds all the verbal skills pretty much that the GRE tests. You want to make daily reading kind of a part of your routine. A website I like is AL Daily, artsandlettersdaily.com. Just read an article that you normally wouldn't read, and it's going to broaden your vocab, it's going to broaden your reading ability. Rachel, what did you do? You followed the crowd. If you go online and search for GRE prep, guess who you're going to see? The biggest companies. Guess why? They're the ones who have the most money. If you haven't noticed, Google is all about advertising these days. It's not really about actual organic results, right? So those big companies also have millions of dollars to spend on SEO. So you're naturally going to see companies like Magoosh, Kaplan, Princeton Review every time you do a search. However, you may find better advice on YouTube, which is totally free. Look for advice from tutors, people who have been doing this for a very long time, like me, and you're going to get a better sense because you're going to be reading an opinion from an actual expert. So don't necessarily do what everyone else is doing. And way number 5, brought to us by Chandler. By the way, what a badass picture, huh? Like, I wish I had even one picture that was as badass looking as Matthew Perry is looking right here, right? Well, what did he do? He did questions without analyzing them. So a lot of people, they're very serious about their GRE prep. They have a lot of work ethic, and they do so many questions, but they never really stop and think about what's going on with any given question. They're so focused on doing lots and lots of questions. But if you analyze questions and write down things like why you got them wrong, what the easiest path to the right answer was, what the question was testing, and maybe what cue in the question you can recognize what it was testing, you're going to learn so much more than somebody who's just doing a bunch of questions. So make sure you analyze as well as do so you can really get to the bottom of it. And by the way, only do this with real ETS questions. And then finally, who's left? Ross, right? What did Ross do? He didn't take any time practice tests. Ross, buddy, come on. You got to take time tests. That's the only way you're going to get used to the time pressure, and you got to take the entire test at once in a while to get used to that feeling you're going to get on the real test where you have to sit in a cubicle for 4 freaking hours and take the actual GRE. Try to make the timed experience as close as you can to the real test, and you can do that by shutting yourself in a room where nobody can bother you. There's no possibility of interruption. It's quiet, and just force yourself to sit there. Give yourself one 10-minute break midway through. So, guys, hopefully this was helpful. If you're looking for some more tips, check out the rest of my channel and my website, where you're going to find some free study plans on vincecochin.com and greverbalcourse.com. Good luck with your GRE studying.